Okay then guys, in today's State of the Legion we are going to be looking at the Black Legion. Now unfortunately my own Black Legion army isn't painted enough to set out like I normally like to do with my armies, so we're just going to make do with the War Master himself. He represents the Black Legion, he's just here on their behalf today. Unfortunately, again, the Black Legion are not within the Faith and Fury book. They're the one Legion which is in the Vigilus book, which is currently considered unofficial, you know, for tournaments and things. You can still use it in match play games if you want to, but you know, unlike the Faith and Fury books, you can't use it in tournaments anymore. So it's sort of semi-unofficial, and it's a shame. It's kind of awkward to have this one Legion just stuck out in this book, but you know, there you go. We'll get a new Codex eventually, and they'll ruin everything. So I think there's a few good things to talk about with the Black Legion. It's maybe not one of the best because it's the earliest one that came out. I think the rules compared to Faith and Fury, generally speaking, are tamer. They're quite tame, but there's some really good stuff. Now the Black Legion, I do actually play them fairly often. Not the Black Legion army I have is new, but I've used them often just as my Iron Warriors. You know, just played Iron Warriors as Black Legion. I'm not a fan though of the first thing we'll get to. Just the Legion trait. I've always disliked this trait. It's a really crappy equivalent of the the Ultramarines kind of thing. I've never really been sure exactly what it's supposed to be used for. It gives them +1 leadership, you know, just sort of army-wide +1 leadership. That's nice. You know, bumping everybody up a leadership point, it is nice. But the other element to it is that you treat rapid fire weapons as assault weapons if you've advanced. So your bolters and your plasma guns, they count as assault weapons if you've advanced. You can still fire them, but at -1 to hit. And you know, essentially, if it was rapid fire 1, it's assault 1. If it was rapid fire 2, it's assault 2. I'm not really sure how or why or when you're supposed to use this. I certainly don't tend to have units of Chaos Space Marines or Terminators or whatever just sort of advancing around the board. I think that the idea maybe was that you'd have these, you know, foot slogging Chaos Space Marine squads with bolters just, you know, advancing across the board, running around, you know, closing the gap quickly and shooting people. But you know, really, if you're running those kind of Chaos Space Marines, then they're bolt pistol chainswords. I've never seen, you know, and the whole time this 8th edition Codex has been out, I've never really seen what the point of this Legion trait is, or you know, what it's supposed to do for you in the army. I don't think I've ever used it. I mean, I've used it, I've had it in game, but I don't think I've ever, you know, had it do anything for me in game. It's just, you know, maybe there's people out there that really have a way they like to use it, but for me, you know, changing rapid fire weapons to assault weapons, it's an incredibly petty, you know, non-bonus that I honestly don't think has ever come up in my games, because I can't think of many times when I've, you know, advanced a squad of Chaos Space Marines with bolters or plasma guns or something. It just doesn't happen really. You know, there's no reason to. If I'm advancing and charging anything, then it's probably, again, you know, chainsaw bolt pistol type guys. But there you go. +1 leadership isn't bad. You know, it's not being able to fall back and shoot though, is it? So the stratagems, the one from the Codex is Let the Galaxy Burn. This is a good one. It's a 1CP one. I've used it fairly often. It's pretty good. You can essentially choose an infantry or biker unit in the shooting or fight phase and give them reroll 1s to hit. Or if it was a Chaos Space Marines unit, specifically a Chaos Space Marines unit, then you can reroll hit rolls. It is pretty good. It's nice if you had, say, a big blob of 20 guys with bolters. You know, you can just get a whole squad of rapid fire bolters. I think I've used it on bikers, you know, because there's probably no Lord around, where, you know, wherever the bikers have zoomed off to, so they get the reroll 1s to hit with all of their incredible firepower. It is a really nice one to just pop up every now and then, especially if you do get a nice big squad of infantry somewhere, you know, and you can really just get a whole bunch of 3s rerolling 1s and 2s to hose something down. It's pretty good. It's nice. You know, it's good for if you don't have the Lord or Abaddon himself anywhere nearby, you know, and you still want those rerolls. It's decent. Now, Chosen of the Pantheon is one that I think has potential, but I feel like the way that I use it might be cheating, but there's nothing I've seen anywhere that specifically says that it's cheating. Now, the way that I use it, I think it's quite good. The way that other people potentially in bat reps and things use it, or not use it because to them it's worthless. That might be the correct way. I'm not sure. Basically, it's one command point, and it says you use this stratagem at the start of your turn. Pick one Black Legion unit from your army with the Mark of Chaos keyword that you did not dedicate to a specific dark god. That unit has the Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle and Slaanesh keywords until the start of your next turn. Now, essentially this allows you to, multicast things. If you had, a Sorcerer of Slaanesh and Tzeentch and Nurgle, you could get them, you could get one unit. Let's say a big unit of 10 Terminators, 10 Black Legion Bringers of Despair. You could get, -1 to hit, 5+ Feel No Pain and +1 Invulnerable Save, all on the same unit. Which is pretty great. The trouble is, you have to use it at the start of your turn, which means that you kind of need something already on the board. You can't do it if it's in a vehicle or Land Raider or something and they got out, or if you've deep struck. It's kind of like you need to use it the next turn. However, I haven't really used this because I've never really been sure whether I'm right or wrong about it, and I don't want to cheat if I am wrong. But as far as I'm concerned, you could, it says specifically pick a Black Legion unit from your army. It doesn't say one that's on the table, doesn't say one that's on the board. As far as I'm concerned, I could pick a unit of Black Legion Terminators in Deep Strike, use the stratagem on them, bring them down, and then have my sorcerers cast the powers on them to make them a nasty, buffed up unit. I think that's fine. There's nothing here. Normally it does specifically state, pick a unit on the table, pick a unit not, embarked on transport and that sort of thing. It doesn't state. It says pick a unit from your army. They're in my army. They're in Deep Strike, but they're in my army. So, I think that you could use this on Terminators or something. Bring a big unit of 10 Bringers of Despair down with Abaddon and a bunch of Terminator Sorcerers, unless they're already on the board, and just absolutely buff something up. But I've never really been completely certain, and it's meant that I haven't really used it, because I wouldn't want to do that and then find out that I can't do it. So it's either, in my opinion, it's either a useless stratagem that you'll never use because it's always the turn after you need it, or it's really good, but I'm not sure. Now, World Killers. A lot of people sleep on this one, and I've seen it played wrong on bat reps too. It's 3 command points, which, pretty much is as many command points as anything costs. I know that there's a 4 command point thing in the Death Guard book now, but generally speaking, 3 is as much as it gets. And this is incredible. This is, if I was going to play Black Legion and, really go for like a competitive game where I wasn't that interested in having fun, I would probably build my army so that I had at least 9 command points, if not, out of the 12 you start with in 2,000 points. I would, maybe spend 3 on a 2nd battalion and make sure that I had, 9 command points. And I would basically do this at the beginning of every battle round for at least the first 3 turns of the game, or maybe the second, 3rd and 4th turn of the game. Maybe not the first one, because you might not be in position to use it. Essentially, you use it at the start of any battle round, and until the end of that battle round, so it's both of your turns, enemy units cannot use any abilities that allow them to control an objective marker if there are any Black Legion units from your army within 3 inches of the centre of that objective marker, even if there are more enemy models within range of it. So essentially, not only does this turn off OBSEC, it also means that outnumberment doesn't matter. So if you had one Terminator, one Black Legion Terminator, stood on an objective, or within 3 inches of an objective that there are 10 tactical Marines guarding, he scores that objective. They lose all their ability to hold it. They lose OBSEC and they don't outnumber him. He holds that objective. They literally lose the ability to control an objective marker. If there's any Black Legion units within 3 inches, you can have, and it's just Black Legion units. It's not infantry. You could have a tank. It could be a Rhino. Could be a Land Raider. Could be squad of cultists, Terminators, a Hellbrute, a character, Abaddon himself, literally anything. And the way that this is written affects every objective marker on the battlefield. Now, I said I'd seen it used wrong. What I mean by that is I've seen people, pay the 3 command points and say that objective is mine. But that's not how it works. The way that it's written, it works on every objective marker on the table. Enemy units Cannot use any abilities that allow them to crawl an objective marker if there are any Black Legion units from your army within 3 inches of the centre of that objective marker. It doesn't say one, it says if there are any units within range of an objective marker. No, it's not saying one objective marker, it's not saying a specific objective marker, it's saying an objective marker. That's every objective marker on the table, This hasn't been FAQ as far as I know. So, you could just pay 3 command points at the start of each battle round, whether you went first or second. Cover the board as much as you can. Terminators, vehicles, tough, heavy things that you can't shift. And even if you're shot down to the last Terminator, or you've got, a tank or something, sat in an objective, it's yours. They can't take it. This is, it's incredible. It's incredibly competitive for me. I feel like this is probably one of the most competitive stratagems ever. It's crazy. I can't believe that it exists, to be honest. I've never really used it because to me this is the kind of stratagem where you don't have any friends. If you're going to go around using this, you're not going to have any friends. People aren't going to want to play you. I don't really want to necessarily use this against the people I'm playing, because it would be easy if you, well, not easy, but if you specifically built your list to saying, rather than engaging the enemy, my whole list is going to just be based on me covering the board as many objective markers as possible with bikers, terminators, vehicles, whatever, that don't even have obsec necessarily. And I'm just going to use this every battle round and just hold all the objectives as long as I've got one model in range. It's mine. It's incredible. It's great. But again, people probably won't like you if you do this. Relics of the Long War, that's just your normal, you take an additional relic type thing. Merciless Fighters, it's okay. I think I've maybe used it a couple of times. It's 1 command point. Use it at the start of the fight phase. Pick a Black Legion unit from your army. If that unit has more models than enemy models within 3 inches of it, then you can add 1 to the attack. So essentially it's ganging up. If you've got 10 Chaos Space Marines surrounding 5 intercessors, then you get +1 attack on each Chaos Space Marine. So they'd have what would they have? They'd have 1 base, 1 for Hateful Assault, 1 for Chain Sword, and then 1 for this. So they've got 4 attack space. They're getting additional hits on 6s or 5s potentially if they're near Abaddon or something. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's just one of those things where because you're Black Legion, your Chaos Space Marines, you might not always be the most numerous unit. There may well be more enemies than you. It's kind of tough sometimes to outnumber people with Space Marines. But it's definitely something you could pull out if you needed to. Maybe if you really needed to assassinate a character, you just needed a squad of normal guys, to just stab this guy to death. It could be all right. Now, Tip of the Spear is another nice 1 command point. I have used this a few times. I'll tell you in a minute how I've exploited it. Basically, use it at the start of your first shooting phase. So it's a once per game stratagem, essentially. It's the start of your first shooting phase. You can reroll hit rolls for the Black Legion unit from your army that is closest to an enemy unit until the end of that phase. If several units are equidistant, you can choose. So basically, I think that it's the idea that it's the first in the fray, it's the glory seekers. I feel like maybe it's intended to be either a unit of foot-slogging Chaos Space Marines that's really run forwards, advanced or something, so it's shooting its advanced bolters, or maybe a unit of bikers or something like that. The way I used it was I would take 2 battalions or some kind of detachment, 2 detachments essentially, and I'd have 1 Black Legion and 1 not, and I would basically have all the rest of the Black Legion detachment enter through reserves, whether that's Abaddon, some Terminator characters, some Terminators, Obliterators, Havocs in drop pod, whatever it is. I'd have them all start in reserve, except for 1 unit of Havocs, last cannon Havocs, which would start on the table, and then the rest of the units on the table, the objective holders, they'd be the allied but detachment, with other Chaos Space Marines from, the Red Corsairs. I take the Red Corsairs because you get the 3 bonus command points, and it's really good. But it could be anything. And so, technically, They might not necessarily be the closest unit on the table because, you know, again, if it's a Lascan Havoc squad, they're probably deployed towards the back of the board, out of the way, and there's, you know, probably any number of other units in the other detachment that are close to the enemy. But because they're the only Black Legion unit on the table, they are the closest. So, you know, that's how I've exploited it in the past. I'm not saying that it's worth, you know, for the sake of reroll to hits, it's not worth building your army that way just to exploit that. But if you are going to run, you know, that sort of heavy Terminator type army, it's definitely pretty fun to just, you know, to just do that. For one command point, they can reroll hits on the first turn. It is a nice one to exploit. Legacy of Horus, one command point again. Use this stratagem at the start of the morale phase. Until the end of that phase, add 1 to the leadership of other Legion units, not Black Legion units, other Legion units, so allied, you know, Iron Warriors, Word Bearers, that sort of thing, while they're within 6 inches of any Black Legion unit. So it affects your whole army, essentially. You just spend 1 command point in the morale phase. Any other Chaos Space Marine units you've got from, you know, second detachments, whatever it might be, they get +1 leadership while within 6 inches of any Black Legion units. Don't think I've ever used this. It's okay. I don't think that I would, you know, really bother or care that much about getting +1 leadership unless I specifically knew, for, you know, because I worked out in my head already. I specifically knew that I needed +1, and it would really, you know, really help me, be really clutch in a certain situation. I don't think it's something I would bother doing all the time. But it's certainly fairly thematic, the idea that, you know, these other Chaos Space Marine Legions are, you know, watching the Black Legion and being either inspired or scared, probably. You know, it's a nice enough one. It's okay. I don't think I've ever used it myself. You know, you could certainly pull it out the bag though. If you really need a +1 leadership, it was really going to help you. You know, you would know. This is the start of the morale phase, so, you know, you've taken your casualties by this point. You would know roughly what you were going to be looking for in morale tests and things that turn. So, you know, if you need it, it could help you, but I wouldn't, you know, it's not something you're going to bother with very often, probably. And then the last one for the stratagems is Council of Traitors. Now, this is a favourite of mine. I've used it, you know, in probably, you know, any game that I've used Black Legion, I've used this. I think it's a great stratagem. For Chaos, you know, for the newer codexes, the Space Marines, the Necrons, the Death Guard, you know, it's a thing in the newer codexes that you can sort of buy additional Warlord traits for command points and delegate them. This is, you know, as far in terms of 8th edition, is the only way Chaos Space Marines can really do that. It's 1 command point, which is really good. It's 1 command point. If your Warlord is a Black Legion, Chaos Lord, Demon Prince, or Abaddon, you can pick up to 1 Black Legion Dark Apostle and up to 1 Black Legion Sorcerer and assign them each a Warlord trait. So you would have 3 Warlord traits, essentially. Now that's a good deal. That's a good deal, getting 2 additional Warlord traits for 1 CP. It is a bit of a shame that it's limited to certain choices. You might not want to take a Dark Apostle. Chances are you'll take at least one of the 2, Sorcerer or Dark Apostle, and even still paying 1 command point for the extra Warlord trait is still worth it. You know, that's how much everyone else pays for it. And if you did happen to have both of those characters, then you get 2. And this is, you know, very much worth it, because actually the Black Legion, I'll get to it in a minute, they actually have really good Warlord traits. There's at least 3 that I think are great, and I would, you know, I'd always have them in the army. There's and they can work with the other characters too. You know, that's I think that the Dark Apostle and the Sorcerer, you know, they might not be necessarily where you want them on the battlefield, but I think that there's still some good Warlord traits you could give them. You know, so that for regardless where they are on the battlefield, they're still going to help you. But before we get to that, it's the relics. Now, the main relic, you all know about the main relic. It's Gorshavik's teeth. This is essentially, this is the Chain Lord. This is, you know, it's a been and gone thing. It's the Chain Lord. You combine this with the Flames of Spite Warlord trait, so that for each wound roll of 6, you cause 2 mortal wounds. But even without that, it's still actually an incredible relic. It's a chain sword, so it costs nothing. You probably start with it, or it's a point or something. It's strength user, AP -3, damage 2, and you make 2 additional attacks with it. And you on wound rolls of 6+, you cause a mortal wound, which is why when you stack it with the Eternal Flames of Spite, you would cause 2 mortal wounds on 6s to wound. That's been a thing for a while now. Obviously Chain Lord on normally a Raptor, Jump Pack Lord, just throwing him in there. He can pretty much destroy anything that you want him to. It's only user strength, but you've got veterans. If you want to use veterans to get +1 to wounds, pretty good. You could cast powers like Diabolic Strength to give him +1 attack and +2 strength. So again, he'd be strength 6. With veterans, +1 to wound at strength 6. It's going to wound most things on 3s probably, if not 2s. So he's really good. He can butcher characters, he can clear squads, he can pretty much do anything you need him to. And even if you don't stack it with the Flames of Spite Warlord trait, it's still a really, for the fact that it's essentially free because it's just a chainsword. It's incredibly AP -3, damage 2, 2 additional attacks. It's incredibly good. It's the easy auto take. Unlike the Trophies of Slaughter, which is add 1 to the leadership characteristic for friendly Black Legion units while they're within 6 inches of the bearer, and subtract 1 from leadership of enemy models while within 6 inches. Now, you already get +1 leadership from your Legion trait. This would give you another +1 to units within 6, so I think that standard Chaos Space Marines leadership 8. This would make kind of an army-wide leadership 10, which is nice. If you did want to just create a really sort of solidly brave army, just have leadership 10 all over the place, then it's certainly not bad. But it's not one I would ever bother choosing. I'm really just fed up with leadership manipulation and just +1 leader. It doesn't matter. Having +1 leadership doesn't help me kill anybody. I'd obviously rather take the chainsaw than just have +1 leadership within 6 inches. So it's not great, but if you did really want a leadership type army, then fine. The Sightless Helm is rubbish. I don't see why you'd ever take it. I don't think anybody does ever take it. You worsen your ballistic skill by 1 and improve the armor penetration of all the bearer's weapons by 1. It's actually okay if you've got a combat character. If you had a combat character, you don't care about the BS anyway, but you'd get +1 armor penetration to your weapons. The trouble is, most of the time people would rather have an actual relic weapon than just have +1 AP on their Power Fist or Lightning Claw or whatever they've got. But if you had it, now that 9th edition has made Thunderhammer's AP -2, if you took this, you'd make it AP -3 again. Could be worth it if you were doing a sort of Thunderhammer Smash Lord, but generally speaking, I don't think there are many, relics. Like, are you really going to take this just to buff a Power Axe or something? I don't think so. You're probably going to just take the Axe of Blind Fury or something like that to have a nice relic axe anyway. So it's just one of those things where it doesn't really do that much. I don't think you're going to take it. Angel's Bane. Now this is a good one actually. Replaces a Combi Bolter, so 3 points. It's a really good relic for 3 points. Range 24, Rapid Fire 2, Strength 5, AP -2, Damage 2, but Damage 3 if the target has the Imperium keyword. So, if you were within Rapid Fire range or you're a Terminator, so you're always within Rapid Fire range, 24 inches. 4 shots, it's Strength 5, AP -2, Damage 3 versus Marines. This is actually genuinely horrific. You could do some serious damage to some of those big, buff sort of 3 wound type squads they've got these days. These low model count 3 wound type squads. It's genuinely really good. Again, like I said in my Iron Warriors review when I was talking about Spike Spitter, it kind of sucks that it's better than Abaddon's own Talon of Horus Bolter, which is just like Strength 4, D3 damage, AP -1, rubbish, crap. I don't know why he wouldn't have the Angel's Bane. If I was Abaddon, I'd take this. I'd just kill whoever have it. I just kill him, take it, because I'm Abaddon. But it's definitely a good one. I would definitely take this. I think it's shockingly good firepower, to be honest. Against Marines, 4 shots. You'll be hitting on 2s, re-rolling currently. Wounding on 3s. Could veterans, if you wanted to make it 2s, might be worth it, depending on the target you're shooting. AP -2. So, you put Marines down to a 5+ save, and then it's damage 3. Instant squishing, a good number of tough tough models they have these days. Yeah, it's a good one, especially for 3 points. Cloak of Conquest. Each time the bearer slays an enemy character, add 1 to the bearer's strength, attacks, and leadership characteristic. Rubbish, you know. Rubbish. Anything that makes you have to do something like kill an enemy character to get an effect, like the Slaughterborn World Eater's Warlord trait. It's just trash, rubbish, you know, never going to happen. If it does happen, then it kind of means you're in a good position anyway. If you've just killed somebody's character, you know, you're probably doing all right, and the chances are that the +1 strength and attacks that you get from this, you could have done within the last fight anyway. And it's just you know, a relic that may well never do anything for you the whole game, depending, you know, whether you are able to catch somebody's character, kill somebody's character. It's just rubbish. It's a non-relic. You're never going to bother taking this. And then the Spine Shiver Blade. This is pretty cool, actually. This is a really nice one. It replaces a power sword, so 5 points, I think. +1 strength, AP -3, damage 1, plus D6 attacks. This is really good. This is incredible. It's essentially the stats of a normal power sword, +1 strength, you know, like they have now in 9th, AP -3, damage 1, but you get plus D6 attacks, you know, so I think Chaos Lords have got 4 attack space, maybe 5, so that's getting you your, you know, 10 or 11 attacks plus Hateful Assault, plus, you know, hopefully a bunch of 6s with your Death the False Emperor. It's only damage 1, but it's really good. Really, really good. Especially if you're fighting 1 wound models. You know, not everything's two wounds. Could just be cutting away through a squad of, you know, Orcs or Eldar or something. Really good. I don't think I've ever taken it because there's other things like, you know, Gorshavik's Teeth, Angel's Bane, that sort of thing, and things from the regular Chaos Space Wounds Codex maybe. But it is definitely a pretty good one. I don't know if I'll get the chance to take it, but I'd say it's a good one to take. And it's got, you know, it's got some potential. Plus D6 attacks is always nice. And the Warlord traits. Now, Veteran Raider. This is incredible. This is, you know, pretty much what I've always wanted. While enemies are within 6 inches of your Warlord, while friendly Black Legion units are within 6 inches of your Warlord, they can declare a charge in the same turn they fell back. This is really great if you've got this on, you know, on a Terminator character maybe, or a biker character, or just anybody on foot. Being able to pull units back and charge again, it's something Chaos don't really have access to. I can't think of much else that lets them do this. It's incredibly useful. You know, I've always wished that I could have it, and you know, I've definitely taken this in various games. It's one that I tend to take on a Terminator Sorcerer, who I would, you know, have down with, you know, the Bringers of Despair Terminators and Abaddon himself. I wouldn't give this to another character or in place of Abaddon, because I do like the what's it called? First Amongst Traitors. I do like that Warlord trait, but it's really solid to have alongside you with maybe again like a Terminator Sorcerer, you know, Biker Sorcerer or something like that. Your secondary character, maybe a Dark Apostle if you're planning to have him up in the fight with you. Really good, definitely worth having. Indomitable. All damage suffered by a Warlord is halved, so the same kind of thing Abaddon has. This is really solid. It could, you know, it makes for a pretty nasty Demon Prince potentially. I've never taken it because I feel like it's one of the lesser of the choices here. It's, you know, it's selfish rather than something that affects other units, so I don't tend to go for those sort of things, but it's definitely good. Halving damage is nice. Black Clad Brute is also one that I've used fairly often. You add 1 to the Warlord Strength characteristic, and when they make a charge move, you pick an enemy unit within 1 inches of your Warlord and roll a d6. On a 4+, they take d6 mortal wounds. That's already good because normally these types of things are just 1 mortal wound. This is a full d3 mortal wounds on a 4+, so, you know, especially if you charge something individual like a character, it is very good. +1 strength, I always like +1 strength. It's good for demon princes. It's good for people with +3 strength weapons. There's a fair few +3 strength weapons. You've got the Axe of Blind Fury in the Chaos Space Marines Codex. You've got an axe, I think it's called Foe Render or something like that. It's in Vigilus. We'll get to it in a minute when I talk about the Bringers of Despair formation. It's really good. +1 strength. I'm always happy to get +1 strength. Soul Eater. Each time your Warlord destroys an enemy unit, they regain D3 lost wounds. It's okay, but I never really take things like that because it's, it requires you to lose wounds. It requires you to have lost wounds but not be actually dead. I feel like you don't really want these kind of warlords or relics and all that sort of thing that require you to meet a certain standard before you benefit from it. If you take this, chances are you will just be killed and be thinking, oh well, I didn't even get to use it. Trusted War Leader. Now this is the one that I tend to take on a Dark Apostle if he's at the back of the board somewhere, maybe sitting with some Havocs, that sort of thing, to give him +1 to hit. While he's on the battlefield, roll a d6 each time you spend a command point, and on a 5+ it's refunded. Now this is great because, again, like I said about falling back and charging, Chaos do not have much access to regaining command points. Imperial armies seem to have 10 things that can do it per codex. Never, they're rolling multiple dice every time I use a command point. Oh, 5+ for the Aquila of something, 5+ for the something else. Chaos don't really get to do it though, so it's really useful. I definitely would take. What I would do is I would normally have First Amongst Traitors on Abaddon, and then I'd have Veteran Raider on the Sorcerer, and then Trusted War Leader on the Dark Apostle. But I could swap that around depending what their roles were going to be. It's really good. I would always go for command refunds. And then again, First Amongst Traitors, it makes Death to False Emperor go off on 5+ instead of 6+. I enjoy using this within 6 inches, so it affects any units around them, whether that's Terminators, your own Black Legion Terminators, squads of infantry, whatever it might be. Affects everything, affects vehicles too, so if you had, demon engines, that sort of thing in combat, would affect them. I enjoy using prescience with this to get it to a 4+. You can pretty much get 50% extra attacks. If a guy's got 8 attacks, he'll end up with 12 hits out of 8 attacks because he's probably got 50-50 bonus attacks. It's something I do with Abaddon himself. Often I'll cast prescience on Abaddon himself. He's got something like 7 or 8 attacks base, plus d6 for the sword. You end up with so many hits, it's crazy. So yeah, it's a really good one, and I like to keep it. Now we're going to go back to the Bringers of Despair. It's in this codex. This is a specialist detachment. It costs you 1 command point to take this, and it unlocks for you a Warlord trait, a relic, and 2 stratagems. Now it affects Terminators, only Terminators, so essentially Terminator characters and regular Terminators. 1 stratagem is called Brutal Subjugation. It's 1 command point. Use it at the start of the fight phase. You pick a Bringers of Despair unit, and each enemy model killed by that unit counts as 2 for the purposes of morale. That's pretty good. I don't think I've ever used it. But definitely if you really wanted to make somebody fail their morale test, even if you've only managed to kill four members of a squad of 10, counts as 8. It's really good. It will stack up pretty quickly, and even if you kill 3 guys, it's going to count as 6. They're probably only leadership 8 or something themselves, so it's going to be it's great. It's really good for just making people fail when you need them to. But it depends how often for you personally making people fail morale tests is useful. I tend to be more the kind of player who likes to overcommit and just kill something. But, it's alright. And then Chosen Enforcers, 1 command point as well. When a friendly Heretic Astartes unit within 18 inches of a Bringers Despair unit is required to take a morale test, that unit automatically passes the morale test. So it works on other Black Legion units or Heretic Astartes units from other detachments that you might have, and essentially it allows you to auto pass for 1 command point instead of 2 command points. So now that's a once per game. I think it's insane bravery. Now it's a once per game thing. It's even more precious. This, you could do it once per turn essentially for 1 command point. Automatically pass morale test. I think this is really good. Now that, because passing morale is a pretty important thing for holding objectives and that sort of thing. If you've got 1 or 2 guys on an objective, you really need them to stay there. You could do your once per game 2 command point insane bravery, or if you've got them within 18 inches of a Terminator unit or Terminator character or Abaddon, you can just pay 1 command point and they automatically pass it. Really, really useful if you're being competitive, especially in conjunction with something like World Killers. If you do have the last Terminator on a unit that's completely denying your opponent, the objective for, even though there's 10 Space Marines there, you really need him to pass his morale test, because if he fails it, the plan isn't going to work. You can use this on himself potentially, if he's a Terminator, and automatically pass. It's great. It's really good. Definitely competitive, I think. Chosen of the War Master is the Warlord trait. This is a great Warlord trait. Essentially, it gives you reroll 1s to hit, like a Chaos Lord if you're not a Chaos Lord. So if you had a Terminator Sorcerer, you could give the Terminator Sorcerer a reroll 1 aura, or if you already have the reroll 1's aura from the Lord of Chaos ability, so a Terminator Lord, then it gives the sort of Chapter Master Abaddon full rerolls. You just get to reroll hit rolls. Now this is great. It allows you to basically have 2 Abaddons on the table. It does, unlike Abaddon's own ability, it does only affect Terminators, so it would just be for the Terminator unit or any other Terminator units within 6 inches of this Warlord. But this is great. If you've got Abaddon with 10 Terminators over somewhere else, there's like, a bunch of combi bolters, combi plasmas, combi melters, he's making them reliable over there. If you had another Chaos Lord and Terminator armor somewhere else, sort of acting as his lieutenant, you can put this on him. That's another full rerolls for his, 10-man Terminator squad that he's got. Again, combi bolters, plasmas, melters, hitting on 3s, rerolling. Really reliable, really useful. Combat as well, of course, as soon as you charge in. I personally tend to run a lot of power fists, which means hitting on 4+. So having Abaddon or a character with this full rerolls, in 2 places on the board, there and over there, hitting on 4s with those power fists, rerolling hit rolls, it's brilliant. It's really good. Then the relic you get is called Foe Cleaver, and this is the kind of thing I was talking about earlier. +3 strength. It's an axe. It replaces a power axe. +3 strength, AP -2, damage D3, and you add 1 to hit rolls against Imperial units. So again, if you had, makes you strength 7, but if you had the Black Clad Brute Warlord trait, you would be strength 8. So you'd be wounding Marines on 2s, and because it gives you add 1 to hit rolls. Now obviously in 9th edition, things don't stack the way they used to. In 8th edition, you would have used this potentially in conjunction with prescience, but even if you don't use it in conjunction with prescience, because now we're in 9th edition, it's still really good, because it means you get your 6+ Death to the False Emperor would go off on 5s all the time, even if you weren't within Black Crusader range, or if you had a Black Crusader Warlord trait. Obviously, not if you had it. If you were in range of the Black Crusader Warlord trait, if you had 2 characters for some reason within range of Abaddon or somebody else with that Black Crusader Warlord trait, so he was affected within 6 inches, it would mean he would get extra attacks on 4+. He'd just come in with his, I'll say 6 attacks. I think a Terminator Lord would have 5 attack space, +1 for Hateful Assault, so you got 6 attacks, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s currently at least. You'd get 3 extra hits potentially. Averagely you get 3 extra hits, end up with 9 hits out of 6 attacks. Pretty good. D3 damage is a bit of a shame now that everything's 2 wounds, but it's okay. You're still probably going to do the job. I do think it's a good axe for if you had a secondary Terminator character for some reason. I do think it's a good one. I may give it to the Chosen of the Warmaster Lieutenant. I know that he would be out of range of bringers of the Black Crusaders if I did that, but if I had, actually no, I'd lose the Black Clad Brute. Doesn't matter though. You don't have to be +1 strength. That's just what I like to do. I like to get everything to strength 80 if I possibly can, because you know how useful that is. But anyway, that's the books. The Black Legion. Like I said, I think it's an unfortunate position being kind of unofficial, semi-unofficial at least. But I think that they've got some really good stuff. I think they've got some surprising stuff, especially if you're playing somebody that maybe isn't that used to them, hasn't played them very often. They've got some great Warlord traits, especially if you are able to take all 3 of them, or at least one extra one on the Sorcerer or Dark Apostle. They've got some decent relics. Angel's Bane, Gorsharix's Teeth. There's some decent relics. The stratagems are, pretty good too. They're not amazing necessarily, but there's definitely some really good ones. You're mainly going to use, World Killers, Council of Traitors, Let the Galaxy Burn maybe, Tip of the Spear maybe, Chosen of the Pantheon. Again, not exactly sure if my interpretation is correct, but I think that it is. And because I think that my interpretation is correct, I think it is a really good stratagem, especially for 1 command point. I would definitely use it. If I wanted to be a bit ballsy and say no, I'm sure that I know how this works. But chances are I won't get to use these rules again anyway before the new Chaos Space Marines Codex comes out. Doesn't really matter. I think the Black Legion are they're doing pretty good. They're not quite as good as some of the units from the Faith and Fury book, but they're decent. I've used them a fair few times just because it's more. I think sometimes the stratagems and the Warlord traits and everything, they, even though I play Iron Warriors, they sometimes fit the army that I've built better necessarily than some of the the actual Faith and Fury elements I have for my army. So I have used them fairly often. Also, I like to use Abaddon. I have my own proxy Abaddon, my sort of Iron Warriors conversion for Abaddon that I use, and so because I use that, I have to play at least a detachment of Black Legion to have access to him. And I do think that it's worth having access to him because he's an absolutely unbelievable beatstick. He's so powerful. You can, Abaddon specifically, I'll just talk about him for a second. He has the Mark of Chaos Ascendant, I think. He has all the keywords, which means you can stack the powers on him. You can cast Miasma and Delightful Agonies and Weaver of Fates on him. So he has a 3+ invulnerable save, a 5+ feel no pain, -1 to hit. You can use, Fury of Khorne or something to, spend 3 command points, make him attack a second time. He's epic. He's powerful enough just in the Codex already, and if you stack him up like that, he just becomes unstoppable. Gilliman isn't going to stop him. Even Primarchs, even other Demon Primarchs can start to struggle if you have all of those abilities on him, and that's exactly what I do. I like to bring him down with at least 2, if not 3 Terminator Sorcerers, with his Terminators, and I just buff him up, cast all the powers on him, and I'll go all the way. I'll put on Diabolic Strength as well. I'll put on Prescience as well. I'll put Veterans on him just to make sure he's wounding everything on 2s. I'll go all the way and I'll make him a beatstick. He's absolutely disgusting. I've had him 1 round a night, which they're not hard to kill. I know they're not hard to kill, but still, he's 1 round a night with just his Talon. The sword attacks were wasted. He did enough wounds with just the Talon, smacked it off the table. He's crazy. You really can just beef him up to an immense degree. So I think that's all I've got to say for the Black Legion. Taking them as an army. Abaddon, just getting to use Abaddon is worth taking this detachment, and as long as you're not in a competitive game, if you're just in your standard match play game with your friends, You know, you can use this book, and it's definitely a good book. There's a lot of nice stuff in here you can use. It's enough to make an army feel reasonably thematic, reasonably Black Legion. Yeah, so you know, thank you if you've watched this, and you know, hope I'll see you again in another State of the Legion video. As far as I'm concerned, the State of the Black Legion is pretty good, especially if you run Abaddon.